Hello, and good afternoon. Thank you for being here today. My name's Shivani, and I lead product management for a team within Google called Developer 1P. And I'm going to be joined in this session by my partner and colleague, Niranjan, who leads engineering for our workflow and AI products. Now, Developer 1P is a group inside Google that is building tools and products that are used by the thousands of developers within Google to create the products that you interact with every day. Products like search, ads, YouTube, etc. And it's tough to be here on the afternoon of the third day, but the fact that you're here tells me that you're really interested in this topic and hopefully as passionate about it as Niranjan, me, and the rest of our amazing team is. Just by a show of hands, how many of you have not heard about generative AI? Okay, that was a trick question, because if I had seen any hands up, I would have said you're still recovering from the party last night. On a more serious note, I'd love to understand just the makeup of the room here. So if I might ask, how many of you are developers or technical audiences? If you can just put your hands up. Okay, a big number of people. And how many of you are in executive management, leadership, or business? Okay, roughly half the room. So what we're going to do today between Niranjan and myself is we're going to talk mostly about the technology side, but we will also spend a little bit of time talking about some of the business considerations. And what we're doing here is, in some ways, we are customers of the products and capabilities that you've been hearing about at the conference, with Gemini, for example. And so we'll talk to you as we've adopted these and what are the experiences that we've had. So our talk is going to consist of 3 parts. I'll start by framing the opportunity. We'll then go deeper into our approach at Google and how we're applying these technologies. And then we'll wrap up with some lessons learned, some considerations, and how we see the road ahead. So, framing the opportunity. Clearly, you all are here, and like I said, probably as passionate as us about this topic. We believe AI has the potential to disrupt the software engineering process. It will affect every part of this process, including code creation, code development, migrations, testing, performance optimization, and many others. And in fact, it will create new possibilities for delivering features and functionalities out in the market. In fact, we are extremely bullish about the role that AI can play in this space and free up time for developers to focus on the things that they love most, which is creating and innovating. I was at a CTO roundtable a year ago, and in that roundtable, we were talking about the use of AI technologies in software development. And the room was divided. Half the room felt that there would be a massive adoption. The other half of the room actually were very skeptical and said that their engineers are never going to allow AI into this domain because they can build and code better than any AI can. A couple of weeks ago, I was with that same roundtable group, and not a single hand was a skeptic any longer. In fact, everyone in that discussion was, how do we do this faster? How do we create this better? How do we move this needle even faster than what we've done? Our leadership is asking for this to come through. Software development has been identified as one of the top use cases that generative AI can help with. So that tone had changed significantly. Anyone in this room relating to that journey? Can any of you relate to that journey with a show of hands? Yeah, I see a number of people on that. So our journey on this path actually started 4 years ago. It started with some research, it started with some experimentation, and as we started doing more of that, we realized the opportunity that this enables. And in fact, Niranjan will share more about that journey over the last 4 years and how things have evolved. So when we think about applying AI, we look at the entire software development lifecycle. It's not just about the code creation. It's not just about code completion. It spans every aspect, from the building, the testing, the release, operations. And as developers, our goal is to create quality code that is fast, safe, reliable, efficient, and delivers the desired outcomes for the business. For our teams within Developer 1P, it's about how do we enable our developers to do that even faster and even better. So we look, as I said, at this entire life cycle, because even if we apply AI and make one part of this life cycle faster, we could be shifting the problem from left to right, and that doesn't help us in this entire journey of delivering the code to market faster, which is why we think that it's important not just to think about one step, but the entire journey. The other part that we think about is how do you meet the users where they are? And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. But as you think about that software development lifecycle, we've identified that there are a number of friction points for developers through this journey. We talk to our own internal development teams, individual developers, engineering managers, and there's been a number of areas where people have expressed dissatisfaction or rather opportunities for improvement. In fact, it's a well-known fact that a developer on average spends less than 40% of their time coding. This is not a Google-specific stat. It's something that's more broadly known across the market. The other parts of a developer's day are taken up by activities such as meetings, collaboration, document finding, knowledge management, things like technical debt. These are all activities that become burdensome and toil for the developer, while many of us developers really want to focus on creating code and being creative. So as I said before, we look at the applications of AI across this entire life cycle, and we've identified a number of different areas where we can bring AI into the workflow. This includes the code creation side of it, the code completion side of it, migrations, testing, builds, debugging, operational, even on the operations side, how can we understand where things are slowing down, where are the bottlenecks, and improve and make those more effective. Our goal is to meet our users where they are and to make AI just happen. We want it to be unobtrusive, and we want it to be helpful. And there's some lessons that we've learned along the way that we'll share with you around how to do that. In fact, when you take a complex topic like this, it's often helpful to think about frameworks and where the AI can be helpful. So here's a framework that we've been playing around with, which looks at what is the expertise level of the user, and what's the complexity of the task at hand, and how can AI help in those different stages. So for example, if you think about a early user who is looking to build simple code, let's say you're building greenfield code. That means it's all about what you're doing as a developer, and you don't have to care about any of the external dependencies. That's a lot simpler a task to do, and AI can actually help you often automate some of those simple code creation tasks. However, in the real world, most of us have code that already exists in our business environments. And working with that type of brownfield code requires not just knowing the logic that you want for your application as a developer, but also how does it connect with the other parts of the code that already exist? What are the dependencies? What are the intersection points? and how do you build around what's already existing in your environments. In those cases, AI can help you assist in the creation of those codes. Similarly, as you think about legacy code that exists in our environments, you might want to think about how do you migrate your code to a more modern version. Let's say going from legacy Java to a more modern, updated version of Java. Or, security and compliance mandates may have changed. Your tools may have changed. So how do you ensure your code is up to date with that? And AI can help you accelerate some of that code transformation and migration that journey entails. And finally, as you think about opportunities such as safety and performance optimization, now I'm talking not just about the human side of it, but also the machine and compute side of it. AI can help amplify the work that you're doing to optimize those areas. So with that, I want to hand over to Niranjan to talk about how we've looked at our own environment within Google, how we've taken our code base, our development stacks, and our tools, and applied AI across that spectrum. Niranjan?
All right. Thank you, Shivani. I hope everybody's having a good next so far. So hi, I'm Niranjan. And I'm going to talk about how we've been really innovating and implementing these AI capabilities over the past few years. Our journey started about 4 years ago with a very deep partnership with Google Research and DeepMind to advance the research and state of art when it comes to applying AI to software engineering. We've been working pretty closely with them to figure out, as the capabilities of LLMs grow, what does it mean for software engineering, and how can we bring sort of our insights into how development is done at Google to bear in terms of improving software engineering. At the same time, we've also been iterating and working very closely with our partners at Google. Parts of Google like YouTube and Search and Ads and Cloud, they're all individual, mature enterprise companies in their own right. They see some of the same challenges that all of you in the room see. They all have legacy code bases that go as back as 25 years. There's a lot of technical debt and complexity. And in collaborating with them and in learning from them, we've started building a good intuition of what it really means to deliver AI at enterprise scale for software engineering. A good way to think about what we do is almost as a laboratory where we can test out a lot of ideas as they are being productionized and really kind of refine the last mile of things. In fact, some of the innovations that you saw over the last few days announced here were piloted and tested internally at Google as well. So let's talk a little bit about what does it mean to do AI at enterprise scale for a large company like Google. There's a few key attributes that we like to think about it. Firstly, is your AI accessible? Now, there's a lot of AI technologies, tools, frameworks, co-pilots, this and that. And the biggest sort of feedback we hear from our partners internally is there's a lot of friction when it comes to adopting these things. And so when we work with them and when we learn from them, we really try to optimize to minimize the friction of adopting these technologies. If you meet users where they are, then it's much easier for them to onboard onto these technologies and start making progress. But it's not enough to meet them where they are. You have to take them along on the journey with you. Right? So you have to sort of grow as their capabilities grow as well. Next, people want their AI solutions to be capable. You just heard Shivani talk about going beyond code generation, and we hear that every single day when we talk to our customers internally. There's a lot of problems that these organizations deal with, everything from figuring out how to test at scale, how do you reduce the footprint of their code so that it runs more efficiently, and things like that. These are incredibly hard problems, and they're really looking forward to seeing how AI can meaningfully disrupt and help along those journeys. And lastly, and not the least, they want the AI solutions to be safe. Now, all of you here represent varying degrees of companies. You have a lot of regulations that you have to comply with, and so do we. and making sure that our AI technologies are compliant with all the constraints that organizations have to undergo becomes very important. All of the, all enterprise companies want to protect their valuable IP, and Google is no different. And we want to make sure that our AI technologies don't accidentally become attack vectors. So we spend a lot of time in hardening our AI security systems as well, so that people can be confident that they should be able to use this safely. All right. Before we actually get into how we are building this, I want to start on a lighter note. Now, if you just focus on code generation, all you've done is build like a very high-performant Formula One race car. But the complexity of the surrounding ecosystem means that you're racing that car through the gridlock streets of Manhattan. It doesn't matter how good your car is, probably a Toyota Corolla will beat you, right? And so you have to think about the whole grid. You have to think about the whole landscape. You can't just think about code generation. You have to really go beyond the code generation. By the way, as a side note, the image was generated by AI using this text as a prompt. Right. So let's talk about what does it mean to meet users where they are. In order to meet users where they are, we have invested in a very mature technical stack and a very robust technical stack so that users don't have to worry about adoption toil. They don't have to worry about safety. They can use AI in a way that actually makes sense for them. So we like to think about it as a bit of a layer cake, and we're going to unpack a little bit of it over the next few minutes. So it starts with models. Now, we've been really privileged to have been working with the Gemini team for the past 12 to 18 months. And in doing that, we've sort of identified various ways where we can sort of take advantage of the treasure trove of data that exists within all enterprises, including ours. The most valuable asset that we have from a software engineering perspective is data, telemetry, and insights. And those are incredibly important when you want to apply AI technologies for really hard problems, because it's those insights that let you figure out where is it that users are actually getting stuck. And those insights and that telemetry leads you to identify data sets that you can use for further fine-tuning and refining your models, et cetera. And so we've been fine-tuning our models and integrating them into our ecosystem, as you'll see later. And we've also going far beyond code generation and really trying to focus on next-generation capabilities like automatic bug fixing, testing, migrations. We are super excited by the long context windows with Gemini 1.5 Pro, which we're experimenting with and seeing very positive results of. And we can't wait for all of you to try it out as well. Having great models is not enough. You have to make them useful for the developers who are going to take advantage of them. In a large ecosystem like Google, it means that there could be various ways of accessing these models. And oftentimes, when we talk to our customers, they are confused. Which one is safe? Which one is not? Which one should I actually use? So we've invested in building an internal platform similar to what you see with Vertex and others, where teams within Google can really take advantage of these capabilities through easy-to-use APIs meant for software engineering workloads. These APIs make skills such as code completion, code generation, code conversations, and other things available. A lot of our customers are using these capabilities to build multiple applications. Some of them are converting UI code that was written in JavaScript into TypeScript. Many other teams are migrating their legacy code bases into more modern microservices frameworks that get used inside Google. The most amazing capabilities that we are seeing being used internally are people using these APIs and these models to improve the performance efficiency of code so that they take less compute and other resources in our data centers. However, if you look at most of the software engineers who are doing day-to-day software development, they use a standard set of applications. They use an IDE to write code. They use a code review system to communicate with each other and review the changes. They use tools like code search for finding other things in their code bases and finding similar code patterns and whatnot. They use Google Workspace to communicate with each other about technical topics. We have project management solutions. We have issue tracking solutions. This is where users live every single day. And we try to meet them where they are in a contextually important way. And it's not just about great models and great API. It's also about UX. We have an amazingly talented UX team who works with us to really figure out how can we maximize the flow state of engineers. When engineers are thinking about a hard problem, how can we not distract them? How can we keep them in the flow state? And how can we use AI to increase the amount of time that they stay in the flow state? We also do careful A/B testing and iteration to roll out these capabilities in a safe and responsible way. We want to make sure that with every feature and with every AI capability we roll out for software engineering, it is actually leading to meaningful productivity improvements and not causing undesired side effects. As an example, as we see more and more of our code written by AI, we track very regularly that that is not leading to side effects like increased rollbacks or increased defects and things like that. All right. I know this has been so dry so far, so we're going to do a little bit of demos. But these are not just standard demos. These demos, if you blink, you might miss something, because the point that we are going to try and really stress through these demos are what does it mean to deliver these AI capabilities to the users where they already are. And so you've seen a lot of demos about code generation and other things. So we tried to think about other things that we could show that really span this software delivery lifecycle. So the first example that we're going to look at is code reviews. Now, should be no surprise to everyone in this room that software engineering is a team sport. Most companies don't have singleton software engineers. They have groups of engineers collaborating together, working on problems. And as people are committing code to an increasingly growing code repository, they have to go through practices of code review. In fact, code review is a very important part of engineering culture at Google. Not only is it an important part of our culture, it is increasingly becoming a regulatory requirement for many industries, including ours. Especially if you work in highly regulated industries like healthcare and finance and stuff, software supply chain security is paramount, and code reviews and having multiple eyes on code is actually becoming a requirement in various jurisdictions. However, as you go through these code review journeys, there's actually a lot of back and forth delays between the author and reviewer, and that's a big time sink. And so we've been trying to figure out how can we harness the power of AI to really shrink that. All right, so what you're seeing behind me is an example of a real code review that happened inside Google. The author made a change, sent it to a reviewer, the reviewer left a comment, and rather than waiting for this back and forth between the author and the reviewer, our AI models and our AI models suggested a fix for a change that the reviewer or the author could easily integrate into the source repo. And doing that, we found that the code review cycles have been significantly compressed. We're seeing that the lines between code authoring and code reviewing are blurring as these AI capabilities roll out more broadly. All right. So the next example is near and dear to my heart. At one point in time, I used to write code. And when I wrote code, I used to spend endless amount of time chasing down arcane errors and warnings and things that I had no idea what was happening. And as I was doing that, I would have to read through a lot of documentation. I would have to turn around and talk to people around me. I would have to research surrounding code just so that I could fix like a simple small error. So now pay attention to this demo. It seems very simple. In this case, we have a feature called build repair, where it predicts where your build is going to break, and it suggests a fix to the user. It's a very, very small feature, just a simple little UI change. But that's the tip of the iceberg. Below the surface is it hides all the complexity. It's hours and hours of research that is now avoided just because of a simple feature. Simple interventions, carefully designed user experience that really lead to productivity improvements. All right. So with that, I'm going to invite Shivani back on stage so that we can really sort of close this out and take us home. Thank you.
Thanks, Niranjan. So hopefully those demos gave you a feel for some of the things in action as we are working on them. Now, in conversations with many people, everyone wants to understand what are the benefits of using AI in the software development lifecycle. And while we understand that everything is not quantifiable, we are actively thinking about where we can bring value through the use of these technologies. In fact, as Niranjan mentioned, we have a lot of instrumentation and a lot of telemetry, so we use that to track metrics and measure performance and productivity. But we also recognize that there's a lot that are intangible that actually are very important to businesses. So what we're trying to do here today is share our learnings and also invite you to come talk to us and share your learnings so that collectively we can advance this domain of software engineering. If you think about some of the benefits, we are looking at how do we make AI help improve the developer experience. And I understand in talking to a lot of the CTOs and engineering leaders now that that's a key metric for what they look at across their organization. We also talked about creating more capacity for people to be able to innovate, making sure that the AI just works so that the developers, like Niranjan, can focus not so much on understanding other people's problems and just fixing those, but actually bringing it up front in the creation side of the software. Another area that we found AI really helping is on the onboarding of new developers. So it's an industry stat that it takes a new developer roughly 3 to 6 months to become productive in a new environment because they need to know the existing systems, how things integrate, how things work, what's the documentation, et cetera. And we're finding that using generative AI and NLP and other ways of surfacing information can really help accelerate this onboarding of new developers. Developer productivity is something that we do look at, including how much code is written by AI, how do you think about build repairs and fixes and reviews, improved code health, like can we help improve the code and create quality code faster and take it out to market, and also accelerate how you are launching the code into the market, which in turn actually translates to top-line growth for your companies if you can get your products out faster. So I promised we'll talk a little bit about not just technical, but a few business considerations as well as you go on this journey. And so I'm not going to drain this entire slide, but maybe pick a few of the bullets on here. So, from a technology side, we think it's really important to think about the use cases. AI is a technology, and the magic happens when that technology is applied to solving a problem. So think about your own environments and where do your users have the most need, and how can AI be used in those areas. And also be flexible and adaptable. That's one of the lessons we've learned over the course of the 4 years, because this technology is moving so fast. We need to be aware and flexible to adapt to it. Niranjan talked about the data, the evals, and the telemetry. We've seen that stay consistent for us, but some of the things we're doing in other aspects sometimes can change and evolve as the technology improves. The other area of lesson learned that I'd love to share with you is around the launch and rollout side of this capability. So we deliberately started by launching to a small group of users, and then we got feedback from those users. And that really helped us evolve our own understanding of where our users found these capabilities to be helpful and how they wanted to see it in their environments. So for example, code completion, we brought it into the IDE. Now, even when we were rolling it out in the IDE, we found that we got feedback from users where we were triggering the suggestions too quickly. And so sometimes we were offering suggestions without completely understanding the user intent. And so we got feedback from our users and realized that this is actually creating a negative sentiment. So we we took a step back and made sure to have full confidence that we understood what the user was trying to do before we triggered the suggestions. Similarly, some of the suggestions that we surfaced were long text or long suggestions, which was actually harder for the developer to understand and make sense of. So we went back and we thought about how do we make those suggestions more bite-sized and consumable for the developer to adopt without having to break their flow. And then another topic I want to touch upon is the human in the loop. We see AI as helping the developers. Niranjan talked about review, especially in regulated industries. We are careful to make sure that when we show these AI activities to our users, we make sure it's clear that it's being generated and suggested by AI, and always that the human can also have a look at it before they accept it. From a business side, I would say, one of the things that we've looked at is what's the business case and ROI. This may not necessarily be financial or cost-oriented. It's also other capabilities like experience, like quality of code, that also feed into the business case that you're building for your rollouts. In fact, I was in a session earlier today where we were talking about, do you really need to fine-tune the models, or can you take your treasure trove of data and use customization and RAG models to adapt it to your own environment, which is a much lower cost and also more maintainable over the course of time. We all are aware of risks that we have to be mindful of. For example, legal, IP, privacy. Even in our own data, we're mindful to think about, is there customer information in there? Is there PII data? And making sure we take the adequate measures to protect that. And the last bucket I'll touch upon is talent. There are some people that will naturally embrace this and have no issues adopting these types of technologies. There are some developers who may already have a more prescribed way of working, and there's a change management process to get them to adopt it. So thinking about that change management for your own talent and your own users, how do you do that at scale? How do you bring the right training and education to make people conversant with these technologies? And how do you set up your organizations and hire the next level of talent? So, as we come closer to ending this session, if there's 3 things that you leave with today, I want to sum it up for you. First is meet your users where they are. Second is use your treasure trove of data to adapt the models and recommendations to your business environments. And the third is think about how you could use this technology to solve problems that deliver real value. Now, today we are at an inflection point. Technology is changing very, very rapidly, and this journey that we've been on has evolved so much over the last 4 years. In fact, a wise person said that the pace of change has never been faster than it is today, and it will never be slower. So the road ahead is going to be fast-paced, and we are excited about this journey. What I would say is to Niranjan, let's take the race car out of the gridlocked streets of Manhattan. Let's fasten our seatbelts and get ready for the ride. Thank you so much.